It wasn't love at first sight.
It was not love at first sight. Blimey, almost 3 years. It's been fantastic and we love it, but hi everyone, welcome to the Just Interesting People podcast. My name is Rosie and my pronouns are she, her, and I'm here with my husband and co-host Jeremy, whose pronouns are he, him.
Welcome. Today we are doing a special episode. It's just Rosie and I again. We do that once in a while. And today we are doing another Q&A. We did that a few weeks ago where basically we have our guests asking us questions. So we are kind of like swapping the table around. Yeah. So we got something around 5 questions like last time from multiple guests from previous episodes. So we're just going to dive into it. I'm going to play the question and then we'll answer. Rosie doesn't know the questions, by the way. I've listened to them. She didn't. So yeah, it's going to be a surprise for her. So this is not scripted because she doesn't know the questions. All right, let's get started with the first one.
Hello, this is Mama Joy. I was just trying to get in where I fit in. I'm just so thankful and grateful for you all. I love you, Miss Rosie. I love you, Mr. Jeremy. And Nana's Restart loves you as well. Thank you for being a part of us. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to even get to know this just interesting people. I love it. And I just want to have the question, how did y'all start to come up with the name Just Interesting People? And because I love the picture on y'all website, and it's just a beautiful picture for a beautiful person, people. So I'm just so thankful. And I want to know, how long did y'all been doing y'all Just Interesting People podcast? I love you. I'm so thankful for you. And we will be praying, and I pray that the world is this interesting people, just interesting people at that. So I love you. Thank God for you. And anytime that you need me, please reach out to me. This is Mama Joy from Overtown, the Nana's Restart, and family. Love you.
Thank you, Mama Joy, for the question and your kind words as well. So the name, we explained last time in the previous Q&A, I'll link it here somewhere, how we created the podcast. But the name, it was like at the same conversation. When we had the idea, we came up with a name at the same time.
Yeah.
And I remember I was trying to get like a fancy name, like something clever. And I can actually vividly remember it. I can see like where we were sitting and everything when we had this conversation. Oh. But I was like, okay, so it's a podcast where we're just going to talk to like normal people that are interesting. And we were like, okay. And I think like I don't remember the options that we had.
I remember one of them was something like just regular people or just normal people. Yeah. And then we thought that's probably not as enticing as just interesting people. Yeah. It's kind of, but the whole point was not to talk to like superstars and rock stars and super famous people. So it's kind of like just regular people, just normal people. And we're just kind of like brainstorming what the podcast is going to be about. Yeah. We were like, just people with their stories, interesting people. And then we just kind of went, well, what about just interesting... You said it, I remember. Just, what about just interesting people? And I was like, well, what about interesting people? And you were like, no, I like the just. And I was like, okay. So, yeah.
Yeah. It was kind of very simple. Like, we were trying to think about a concept and to then come up with a name. But basically, I think just chatting about who we were going to talk to just was like, well, that could just be a name. Like, we don't need to have a fancy, I don't know, fancy name that, like a very brandy name or whatever. Like, we're just going to be talking to interesting people. And I know the just, it was like, why are we talking to them? It's just because they're interesting. Yeah. So like, I thought the just made a point about it's just because they're interesting people. That's it.
Yeah. But also, everyone is interesting, so it's not like just superstars, just like it's just normal people who are also interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, it was kind of just very basic actually how we came up with it. We didn't look very far, we just brainstorming about what the podcast would be like, what it was going to be about, and that kind of became the name of it. So yeah.
Well, I also think it's good because sometimes with podcasts you don't really know what they're going to be talking about or who they're going to be talking to, because it's like space moons and you're like, well, okay, but then you're actually talking to like guinea pig owners. I don't know, but like
Space moons, guinea pig.
My brain's feeling creative today. I don't know, but like we wanted it to be very like, okay, we know, like you can look at it and think, oh, okay, they're going to be talking to just interesting people. It is what it is. Yeah, we didn't want like some fancy name when you're like, I don't know what that is. So that was also
like Apple, all right?
Like Apple.
Yeah, makes no sense, right?
Why are they like called Apple and they're not selling apples?
All right, so yeah, that's it. Thank you, Mama Joy. I will also link her website and profile and everything, so you can check her out and maybe donate, because she's doing amazing work in Miami to help her community. So shout out to her.
Yeah.
All right, next question. Are you ready for this one?
I don't know.
That's a funny one.
Oh, God.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Hello, Jeremy and Rosie. My question for you would be, how would you describe the color yellow to someone that is blind? How would you do that?
That little snigger at the end, like, like I know that's a bad question. Oh my God, how do you describe yellow? You'd be like, it's bright. Do they know what green is? Because you could just say it's like green, but not, but like less saturated.
I don't know. I've tried to think about this answer for a while, and I just can't come up with anything good, to be honest.
I think just bright and I don't know how you describe yellow.
Because the way I would describe everything is just by comparing it to
A banana.
objects or whatever. But it's like, if the person is blind, then I'm stuck there. So I would, if I have to use like adjective, I'm looking at something yellow on the wall right now. I would use like bright and kind of joyful and warm. Bright, warm,
Zesty.
joyful, zesty.
Zesty.
Okay. I think I would use adjectives like that. This is a hard question, Rodrigo.
Okay, let us know in the comments section if you're watching on YouTube what you would say to describe yellow. If you're a blind person, what would help? If you know anyone blind, like or if you just got ideas, how on earth would you describe yellow? Let us know.
Or any colors for that matter. I mean, but yeah, I think I would go with like those kind of adjective, like vivid, bright, warm, stuff like that. That's the vibe that I get from yellow personally.
Thank you, Rodrigo, for that amazing question.
No, thank you. All right, next one from Katie.
Hi guys, it's Katie Ox. I have a question for you. I was thinking, what do I want to know most about you two? And the first thing that actually popped into my head was just the admiration that I have for you guys and your ability to like follow your heart and take risks and just do what you love. And I think about like how many people probably want to do that, but there's like this voice that kind of stands in the way. So I was wondering like what those conversations in your head and with each other look like when you're thinking about taking a big leap of faith or doing something to follow your heart that might seem unconventional or scary at the time. So like how do you support yourselves in following your heart and doing what you love, and how do you support each other? I'm curious specifically like what those conversations sound like. Thanks.
Oh my goodness, such a good question, Katie. Thank you so much for submitting that. It's hard to say because I feel like I've just recently self-diagnosed myself with ADHD, which I think plays a part in my brain, how it works, because I will like have an idea and then just do it. Like I can't even stop myself. Like I literally can't stop myself, can I? I'm like, I want to learn this, and I just go and learn it. So I don't really have the struggle of doing anything new. Do you think you look like you're unsure?
Yeah, keep going.
But then how do we support each other? I think just knowing that like we've got each other's best interests at heart. So like we often talk about different ideas, and if we think it's a good idea or a bad idea, or how can we support each other and how can we help each other. And just talk through like, why do you want to do this, or what's the goal of doing this, and will it actually make you happy? And I don't really know how to answer that. What do you think?
I think that could be a full-length episode, to be honest. There's a lot to unpack, I think, on the topic. Because I know that for many, many years, a few decades, actually, like, I was not taking decisions about what to do in my life based on maybe my own best interest. I think I was just doing them to fit in and do what I was supposed to be doing. And I think the trigger was like realizing how short and special life can be, to really switch my mindset of like, fuck all that, fuck all the bullshit that society is expecting me to do and other people. If I want to pursue X, Y, Z, even if it sounds weird for some people, if it's something that I deeply want, and I'm not talking about like something like stupid, like buying some whatever, like actually like a big decision that's gonna have a huge impact that feels like a risk, but also it can be measured risks, right? Like, I'm not gonna rely on other people's opinion to decide if I go for it or not. I might ask some people what they think, because if I think that I need some feedback or whatever about the idea, I might ask a few people where I think their opinion would be valuable, not just a bunch of people that have nothing to do with it. But yeah, it's more like personally, I kind of made a switch like 5 years ago about my goal in life. Like before, my goal was like to have money, to have a Ferrari, to have a big house, all those crap. And now I don't care about that. My goal is to be happy, and all the decision I'm taking is just to serve this purpose. And if some of them are unconventional, don't make sense if you look on it on a paper, right? Like, you have this job, you live in this amazing city, you're making good money, why are you gonna leave everything to do all that? Like, it doesn't have to make sense to you.
Yeah.
Like, I stopped caring about what other people are going to think about me, even like family or close friends. Like, I'm okay with just, you don't like it, you don't have to like it, just accept it for the way it is, if I'm happy with it. So I think like on a personal level is, I think not putting too much importance on other people's judgment. And again, especially of people like have nothing to do with it. Let's say you want to start a business and you have this idea and you want to pursue it, you think it's good, so you might do some market research and you can see there is potential, right? It's not a stupid business idea. There is something there. But then you're going to ask people that have been doing the same job for the past 40 years or whatever, that never took any risks or whatever. You're going to ask them, what do you think about this business idea and should I go for it or not? Like, they're not the right people to ask. Like, those people are just going to say, maybe they might destroy your dream, saying like, no, why would you take this risk? It's bad. Like, they're not the right people to ask. Ask entrepreneurs, ask people that have been through it, and they're going to share their experience and they're going to share their insights based on something that is relatable. And their opinion, they might be strangers, their opinion will be much more valuable than the one of your parents or your best mate, because they've never been through it ultimately like that. So, I think we attach too much importance to some specific people's opinions, even if their opinion actually don't matter at all for the topic that we are talking about, because they're just not the right person objectively to give you advice about it. And I think that's, if you can manage to detach yourself from that, I think that opens up so much more opportunity. And this is something, that helped me to like be able to quit my job, do things that I want to do and stuff like that. And then I think the second thing that Rosie mentioned is about having a support system in place. And personally, like, our support system is ourselves, each other.
Yeah.
It could be a friend, it could be other people. Like, for us, it's us. and that's vital, because depending on what you do, obviously, like some people are going to think what you're doing is stupid, weird, whatever, and having one person or a bunch of people, like close friends, supporting you in what you're doing, I think it's important, because ultimately, you know, we don't like to feel rejected or whatever. Like, even if you don't care about what other people think, you still want to have people around you supporting you in what you do. So I think having a support system in place is vital if you want to, especially if you're taking some risks and it's going to be stressful and stuff like that. I think it's very important. And for us, that's just, like Rosie said, like just chatting a lot, like having conversations about ideas, stuff that we want to do, and trying to think like, is that going to serve anything? Is that going to serve our purpose of being happy? Trying to think short term, mid term, long term, and just also like questioning each other's ideas. Like, we are very different. We are wired very differently. So, you know, when we look at something, I see something and Rosie see something else. So I think having a different perspective on the same idea, on the same topic or whatever, brings value, because she thinks about stuff that I don't think about, and vice versa. And that can help sometimes to identify maybe some, you know, weak point in this idea or in this stuff that maybe you realize not such a good idea, or it's actually a better idea than what you think about or whatever. So I think having a diverse views helps into executing and making stuff like that. Yeah, the reason I was doing a weird face when you when you said that is, yeah, like maybe your ADHD helps you to go for things that you becomes obsessed about, stuff like that. But if I speak, for example, about like YouTube, which is the main thing that you wanted to do, like for years you haven't done it because it was weird, because of what other people were thinking and stuff like that, and your ADHD didn't. Yeah. So yeah, that's why I was making his face. Like, depends on what.
I think, like from what Jeremy was saying, like your lack of caring what people think of you has rubbed off on me a bit. Like, when I was in my like teenage years, 20s, I would not wear the same dress twice. I'd just have to buy new clothes, new shoes, have my hair straightened, wear loads of makeup, do this whole thing. And like, I cared way too much about what I looked like and what other people thought of me and what I was doing, and not enough about what made me happy and actually made me happy. So I think you've helped with that. And I remember, so I started YouTube a while ago, and then I stopped, and then I posted some videos, and then a friend in France like laughed at me in front of a group of people, like all my friends, and made fun of me. And I was just like, oh my God, I want the earth to swallow me up. Never again doing YouTube. It's so embarrassing. Oh my God, how bad. And then I think it was just from spending time in Miami with loads of creative entrepreneurs, people who like followed their dreams, open-minded, supportive. Yeah. That like, after being around these people who are doing all these different things, I was like, wow, okay, I can do it, and it isn't stupid. Like, it is a real, like, if I enjoy it and I want to do it, I can do it. Even if this person thinks it's embarrassing and stupid, it doesn't mean that it actually is. So I think you're like Jeremy make decisions, and I'm like, yeah, but what will your mum and dad think? He's like, I don't give a shit. And I'm like, oh, no, but they're your parents, you should care. And he's like, I don't give a shit. And I'm like, okay. And it's taken me years to kind of accept that, because I'm like, not that we used to argue about it, but I used to think it was weird that you didn't care what people thought of you. Like, he didn't care what my friends thought of him. He's like, if they don't like me, they don't like me. And I'm like, but they should like you. I don't know. It's just, I don't know. But then the other thing I was going to say, when you were talking about our relationship, and I think this is kind of more for relationship rather than friendship, I guess, is to compromise on things. Because like you said, if Jeremy's got a good idea and I'm like, I'm not sure. And like you said, we'll talk about it and like the pros and cons and what we think and why we want to do it and all the rest of it. But also compromise is important. So if there's something really important to me that Jeremy's like, I don't give a shit. If it's important to me, we can go ahead and do it. Or like vice versa. Or, you know, just kind of, okay, we want to go traveling. Well, Jeremy wants to go to Asia, but I don't want to go to India. Okay, so we'll not go to India, we'll go to a different Asian country. Like whatever it is, but you can compromise as well, which I think is really important. It's not just like it's my way or the highway. Like, no, we can come to a decision together. And I think that's really important.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. And I think it can work also in like friendship, relationship, like depending on the topic, right? You know, it's just don't be stuck on your idea, on your thing. Like, be flexible. Yeah. Because again, I don't think you should care so much about everyone's opinions, but some key people might have valuable insights for you, and be okay to take some of them into account and to to be flexible about whatever you want to achieve, because some people will have valuable information because maybe they went through something similar and stuff like that. So yeah, no, it's not that I don't care at all. I cared for a while, and it's just realizing that it's not because your parents tell you X, Y, Z that they're right. Like my parents, like people give you advice most of the time. It's coming from the right place, right? It's because they love you, but it's not because they love you that the advice they're going to give you is good. Like
also, a lot of times people put their projections onto you. So like if they're worried about something, like for example travel, they'd be like, don't go to that place, it's dangerous. And that's their fears that they're projecting onto you rather than your experience and your truth. So that's also like people project their fears onto other people, which you kind of got to like recognize and be like, okay, that's you and that's your thoughts. That doesn't mean that's me and my thoughts or my experience.
And again, I mean, for example, like my parents are not entrepreneurs, stuff like that. Like I don't think they would be the best people to give me advice about how potentially should I start a business or not. Like it's because they just don't have experience about it. So I listen, but the weight I'm gonna put in terms of how much this thing is like important in my decision making is gonna be very little, because I know it's not the most insightful and relevant opinion compared to someone else that maybe has been a business person for 20 years. And
however, if you ever want to make pate, you will write down the whole damn recipe because they're very good at that.
Yeah. Exactly. So it just depends on what you're asking about. Good point. So no, I hope that answered the question. I think we went a bit long there, but I hope that was helpful, Katie. And if it's not, let us know, and we'll try to go deeper in the comment and stuff like that. All right, next we got a question from Séfora.
The story of how you two met is super interesting. Can you please share with us a little bit more about how you met? And was it love at first sight, or did it take some time for you both to realize, like, wow, this is it. I am going to spend the rest of my life with this person.
All right, that's going to be a fun one. I don't know if we shared that on the podcast before, actually. I don't remember that. I don't think we ever shared this story. I'll let you go for it.
Okay, so we met in Australia, in Sydney. Jeremy was there for 6 months on an internship for his university. I was kind of doing some travelling, so I'd been to Fiji for 10 weeks. I then went to New Zealand and whatever, and then went to Australia for 3 months, I think it was, 10 weeks, something like that, to do a fashion internship because I was studying textiles at university. So, long story short, we ended up living together in an apartment where there was 2 bedrooms. There was a girls' room and a boys' room, and there was about 4 girls and 3 boys, so 7 of us in this like 2-bed apartment. And it was all people from all around the world. There was like another French girl, there was some Brazilian guys, there was Dutch girl, there was like lots of different people, and it would change every kind of month or two. You get new people in and out. So it was very international, and it was really fun, wasn't it? Because we all kind of became friends. We'd all like cook together and go out together and talk about our days, and it's kind of, we lived together. And it was interesting because, like, it
wasn't love at first sight.
It was not love at first sight. But
it was I have no idea what you're saying at first sight.
So he introduced himself. He was like, hello, I am Jeremie. And I was like, okay, hi. I was like, what's your name? Jeremie. I was like, no, what? One more time? Jeremie. And I was like, okay, good. I'm Rosie. Hi, nice to meet you. And I asked this girl, Kim, I was like, what's his name? She was like, Jeremy. And I was like, oh, he did not say that. He sounded way too French. So I didn't understand him. But also, like I said, everybody was international. I think I was the only native English speaker. Like, people's English level varied. Some people were fluent, some people less so. And we'd like go out, like I said, we'd go out for meals together and drinks together, like all of us together. And I remember there was the moment where like you and the boys were sat talking about rugby or football, and I was just like, I'm literally, they're not speaking English, but they were, because they were speaking Brazilian or Spanish and French, and like, but they were all speaking English together. I had no idea. This is a long story, sorry. Anyway, I thought Jeremy was seeing one of the girls in the apartment. She was in love with him. Jeremy was not in love with her. They'd kissed twice, apparently. So I was a bit like, that's Kim's guy. I'm not going to go there. And then Jeremy was like, no, we're not that, we kissed twice, it's not that deep. And I was like, okay, fine, I actually quite like you. And then we just got on, didn't we? Yeah. Like, we were just like best friends, like always playing together, always fighting together, like hanging out together, food shopping together. and we just naturally gravitated towards each other. So we went on a little holiday in Australia as well, which was super cute. And then we had to do the long distance thing for a while, and like we were both studying, and then eventually, how long after? Like a year after, we moved in together in Paris, and then the rest is history. But it was not like love at first sight. It was not like this is my person straight from the get-go, because obviously I didn't understand what he was saying. So, but it's a fun story. I mean, it worked.
Yeah. No, yeah, it wasn't love at first sight. We don't have the cheesy stuff like that.
No.
It's a good story though.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, it was just how we got along living together. Like when we spent a lot of time together because we were living together and other people, obviously. But that means that we were hanging out together, going out together, visiting national parks together and stuff like that. So
Getting drunk together.
yeah, she was getting me drunk. So yeah, it was just like creating like a quick bond in a short amount of time. You know, I think if you date people, usually in a month, you see each other like once a week, maybe.
Yeah.
When we're seeing each other every single day for a while. So I think that kind of accelerated the process. I also remember like some conversations about this is not going to work. You're going back to the UK. I'm staying here, and then I'm going back to France. Like, how is that going to work? And took like a little bit of conversation about like, should we give it a go or see you, like whatever.
I don't remember those conversations.
Oh, I do.
I don't at all, did we?
Yeah.
And what I remember when we first started kissing and things, I was like, this is a fun holiday romance. And then obviously feelings kick in. You're like, no, I actually like this guy. Oh my God, what's going to happen? And yeah, because I remember going to England, and I was thinking, he's going to cheat on me in Australia. They go out every night. I've seen what happens on these nights out. He's going to find another girl. That's it. Some other girl's going to move in, and then, I've lost him forever. But I was just like, you just got to like I had to go back to England. I had other plans going on. You had to stay. We Skyped most days, and like I'd come back from a night out at 4 a.m, call Jeremy at 4 p.m. because of the time difference, and we'd like
And vice versa.
yeah, you just kind of made it work. Like we just wanted to see each other and talk to each other.
Yeah. No, yeah, but I do remember having this conversation about like, are we going to try or not, basically? And we decided to try, and
I don't remember that.
yeah, and then here we are 12 and a half years later, because I was in 2010, so
Yeah.
been together for a while. So yeah, this is our little story.
Yeah.
And then last one, we have a question from Yari.
Hi, Jeremy and Rosie. In the spirit of reflection, I wanted to come in and ask you guys, how did the podcast idea come to light? How long did it take you guys to put it into practice, to offer it, to gather your thoughts? And then once you launched it, what was that challenging moment that you both encountered, be it together individually, that you thought would have been easier to handle than it actually was? And how did you get past it so that it kept on motivating you to continue on your path of this wonderful, just interesting people experiences?
Thank you, Yari, for this question. So we actually covered like the name and how we came up with the idea of talking to interesting people. I'm going to dive into more like the second part of the question. I think is very interesting about the challenges once we started and stuff like that. And so I'm more in charge of the podcast. Rosie just shows up and we're going to record. She sits down and she does that. She smiles. So like personally and honestly, like the most challenging thing for me is like right now, I feel like the first year was very easy because I had an unlimited amount of supply of interesting people that I knew that I could reach out, and reaching out to people that I knew, most people said yes. So it was kind of easy to just, hey, do you want to record? Yeah, get it done. Here we go. But then eventually, my circle of friends kind of, okay, I've kind of talked to everyone now. I need to reach out to strangers. And it's not like there's no one else. Like there is a limited amount of people that could be interested in for the podcast, right? But it's much harder to get strangers on the show. You have two kind of people. I feel you have people reaching out to you because they want to sell something, like they got a book, they got a company to promote, and they want to come to just promote the things, which I'm not against too, but I also don't want it to be just, hey, this is what I'm trying to sell you, and is the same pitch that they're gonna be doing in every single podcast.
Yeah.
So I'm more interested in reaching out to people. Like, we browse online. Oh, this person did that. That sounds interesting. We take a screenshot on our phone, and then once in a while, I just blast 10 people at the same time. But it's hard. Like, you need to get in front of their eyes, like get the right email, not ending up in a spam, being in a DM, and then seeing your questions, and then they have to answer. And then if they are interested or not, then they need to schedule. And somehow a lot of people are interested. A lot of people say yes. And then when it's time to schedule, they just never do it. I don't know why, but it's just like that. So basically, like before, when I was asking 10 people, I was getting 9 episodes out of it. When I ask 10 people, I might get 1 episode or 2. So it's much harder to just keep going and keep having guests, honestly. Like, that's personally my main challenge that it is tiring sometimes. Sometimes, like, to be honest, I'm like, okay, like, who do I reach to? Like, I know I need to reach out to a good amount of people in order to have a couple of more episodes. Yeah. And yeah, it can be tiring sometimes, to be honest. And yeah, it can be hard to keep going. That's the main thing for me.
I think the thing is as well, like Jeremy said, it's hard to find people. So if you're like, you know, like we said, we don't want to talk to big celebrities and big famous people. We kind of want to talk to everyday regular people about their interesting lives. But it's hard to find interesting regular people like who aren't already famous, if that makes sense. When you do scroll on Instagram, it's like, oh, this Paralympic person won gold medal and they got no leg, or like, oh, this person has battled cancer and whatever. Like, of course, they're interesting, incredible people, but a lot of the time they have big social followings, or like you can't always get in touch with their them directly, or maybe they've already told their story on lots of other podcasts and YouTube videos, and they kind of, you know, don't really want to do that anymore, or everybody already knows their story, so it's not like something new and interesting. So what we like to do is talk to kind of, you know, people in Miami. We spoke to people in Peru when we were there, just kind of like actual regular everyday people, not even influencers. Which is hard because then when you look online, you see influencers because their work is being shown to you. So it's kind of an interesting one that it's hard to find regular people that are also open enough to talk to you about it, because they're not particularly wanting to be online and wanting to show their stories and wanting to be famous. Whereas the few famous people have already done that. So it's an interesting like balance between trying to find the regular people and how do you find them? Well, through Instagram, but then you're being served people with like 500,000, 3 million followers that have already... you're probably never going to get in contact with. So it's a tricky like dynamic in terms of who we chose. Like if it was like, we're going to interview YouTubers, you'd have so many, like there's like 50 billion something YouTube channels. You'd be fine because people want to promote their YouTube channel all the time. You'd have, you know, a constant supply of people. But because we don't want that, we want like super regular people that like do regular work, but they have an interesting story because of whatever happened or didn't happen in their life. So I think that's a challenging thing. And also because we've not particularly traveled much in the past 2 years, we've kind of been staying with family a lot for personal issues. We spent 7 weeks in Peru where we interviewed 2 people, I think. But otherwise we've been staying with family. So again, it's like we're not really out there meeting people. We're not really finding those regular people that we want to talk to. So I think, finding people I think is the hardest part.
Yeah. I was kind of relying on this idea. Like we travel, we stay in a hostel or Airbnb, and you know, we meet people there and we can record an episode here and there, but that just didn't happen because of life circumstances. So yeah, this is the main challenge really for me. I don't find the technicality of the podcast complicated. I should be doing more marketing, but honestly I can't be asked, so I don't.
You're busy enough.
It's not growing as much as it could, but I don't do it for that, so I don't really care about it. So that's fine. I'm okay with it. And yeah, and I genuinely enjoy like all the conversation that we do and stuff like that. I wish maybe like I could have, like if I had to get help with someone, it would be like, yeah, just reach out to people and outsource this bit, because sometimes it can feel like, you know, no one like rejection or to be ignored. And when you send 20 messages and only 3 get back to you, and then they kind of forget about it and stuff like that. It's like very hard sometimes to get motivated. It's frustrating, and yeah, so that's the main challenge for me at the moment. I want to be ahead every time. I want to be like 5 episodes ahead, so I'm not in a rush. But the reality is that I always get caught up and I need to panic for next week and stuff like that. So
Well, and the other thing is that because it's us two and we talk to somebody else every time, if they're ill or if they're busy or if they're whatever, people do, not all the time, but sometimes people cancel for good reasons, which is, you know, obviously fine and understandable, but it also means that for us we're a bit like, oh, that was meant to be next week's episode, okay, we've got to rush and find somebody else instead. So that can sometimes be annoying because you're like panicking to get somebody else in for the next week because somebody's cancelled who you thought was going to do it. But
so yeah, it's that's the main challenge really that I have on a podcast. And but apart from that, honestly, I love it and I do want to carry on and stuff because it's fun. I think like without the podcast I would have never spoken to so many people with like different stories. You know, I would have never had the chance to have those conversations, and I'm very grateful for all the guests that says yes, the 100 plus, I've lost track now, sorry, that said yes and that we talked to, because I don't think I would have had the chance to speak to a good bunch of them, and we made good connection with stuff like that. So yeah, no, that's the main thing. So if you're watching and you have a good story and you would like to share it, please reach out to me. That would help me out. That would save me a few hours of reaching out to people, and I'm sure a lot of people would find value in it. So yeah, I think that's it.
to counteract that, the best part is actually talking to people, because like Jeremy said, we've had so many amazing conversations with people that we wouldn't have done otherwise. In terms of like people that we don't know, but also in terms of like our family and friends, like when we talk to them during the podcast, we ask questions that you wouldn't generally ask otherwise. So it's a really nice way to like get deep with your friends and actually know like their history or their family dynamics or this thing that happened or didn't happen, like I said. So like, yeah, just want to end it on a positive note rather than us like complaining. Like, we do love it. We love talking to loads of different people, and it has been a fantastic almost 2 years, almost 3 years. What are we on now?
Almost 3.
Blimey, almost 3 years. It's been fantastic and we love it. But yeah, thank you for watching. Anything else to add?
No, if you like the show, please subscribe to the channel or to the podcast on whatever app you're using. But please subscribe to the channel. It's really helpful actually for us. And like it.
Give it a thumbs up.
Yeah. And we'll be back next Wednesday with a brand new episode with a guest, as most of the time. So yeah, thank you for watching and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.